Hey, thanks for stopping by. You guys aren't used to seeing me without my repping my gear, right? So here I am anyway, not repping my gear. I'm on my way home from my day of work, and I am excited to be able to get home, because gas hasn't got that horrible price yet. But I am on my way home, gonna clean up after work, have a little dinner, and then I'm going to be jumping on to my live stream on YouTube, Minnesota Black Robe Regiment. If you haven't watched me there yet live, you're really missing out, especially tonight, because tonight I'm having my second episode of the Libertarian Lowdown, and I'm pleased to have a gentleman on by the name of Anthony Welty. He is a very active libertarian activist. I guess you'd have to be active to be an activist, who is going around the country helping other active libertarians who are very much liberty-minded, and there is a difference. He's going around the country, traveling around in his tiny little travel trailer with his wife and child, and he's getting behind strong campaigns. I'm going to have him on tonight. Now that we've got a few people tuning in, I've been told that TC is anti-cop, that I have completely changed, and now I hate all the men and women in blue. And I guess because somebody says it, it must be true, right? It must be, patently, demonstrably, irrevocably, just beyond any reasonable doubt, it must be true. And not just one person. Several people have said that. And you know what everybody says? Well, a lot of people start to approach you with something, and maybe there's something going on there. Maybe they're right. And here's what I want to lay out. I'm not anti-cop, but guess what? I'm not pro-cop either. I'm not. I'm not gonna lie. I am not pro-cop. I am neutral when it comes to law enforcement these days. Now, it may not appear that way in some of the things that I have been saying, especially since everything that has now started to come out when it comes to the Uvalde school police and the chief of the independent school district down there. Yeah, I've said some hard things, and I'm going to continue to say some hard things. And I will continue to push on bad policing. I will continue to push on those things. But I'm not anti-cop. I'm just not pro-cop. I'm neutral when it comes to the police. You want to know what TC is pro, though? TC's pro-justice. And see, we have this terminology here in the United States called the justice system, right? We have the justice system. And therefore, it must be about justice, right? Because we call it pro-justice. Or we call it the justice system. So it must be pro-justice. And share this out if you would, folks, because I want people to hear this distinction. I'm pro-justice, period. End of story. And just because somebody is part of the justice system doesn't mean that they're for justice. All right? Look around the state of Minnesota a little while. I don't know. Let's think about this. Let's look to Washington, D.C., and the people that are sitting in prison haven't gone to trial yet for having taken part in what many call the insurrection on misdemeanor charges. You had a veteran who was convicted of a felony charge and a gross misdemeanor charge, who was going to prison for a very long time, is my understanding. Because, any amount of time in prison is a long time, if you ask me, depending on the crime that you've committed. But Clinton's campaign lawyer was acquitted by the justice system. Oh, and who were some of the people on the jury? Friends of the lawyer. Someone who had connections to a particular colleague. justice, right? Everybody wants to talk about the justice system. See, I'm pro true justice, not social justice, not gender justice. I'm pro justice. So I'm neutral about the justice system, and in particular, I'm neutral about cops, because that's what you get these days. Do I have some personal reasons to have changed my tune? Sure. A few years ago, I was the guy that would go out and hold a sign in front of a law enforcement station, office, sheriff's office, police department, that said, "Police lives matter," and I would argue with people who would come up and scream in my face. You don't believe me? I can provide the videos of some of the things that were said to me. I'm also one of those people that wrongly use Romans 13 to say that we have to back law enforcement at all costs. And that was a while ago. So I'm not anti-cop. I'm anti-giving them a break just because of the profession that they have. So when I see bad actors doing bad things, I don't care what the situation is. I don't care whether they're wearing a badge or they're wearing the clothing of a criminal. I'm going to call it out. And let me ask this. If you'd bear with me, let's have a little thought experiment. If let's say, had video of a criminal murdering someone on the street, just blatantly caught red-handed murdering someone. If we had that video, but what we also had was a bystander standing next to them in the midst of their crime, and that bystander was watching, shooting video, not doing anything at all. Even though they had the ability to call 911, they had the ability to intervene. Maybe let's say this person was bigger. Maybe this person was a private citizen but had a firearm and was able to intervene, but they didn't intervene while this person was actively murdering this other person. What would you say about the person that was watching? You'd clearly call the murderer a murderer, right? We wouldn't have a problem with that. But what would you say about the person who sat by? You would say, that person is guilty of depraved indifference. They were negligent in their humanity to intervene, to save the life of another person. But when we have a murderer inside of a classroom with guns, committing a heinous crime, when the people responding have body armor and long rifles and training, and they sit idly by for over 40 minutes, and then we get lied to about why that happened, we're supposed to sit back and say, oh, well, we don't have all the story. We don't know all the facts. We don't really know what actually happened. When I point that out and say it's depraved indifference and they should pay a penalty for it, not merely the loss of their job, I'm now a radical anti-cop person. I hate all men in blue. And this came from somebody, several somebodies, but in particular from someone who had been a longtime friend. See, it's not anti-cop to be neutral about cops. It's not anti-cop to not be pro-cop. It's neutral. And I'm not a person who gets upset about binary thinking, okay? I do think there are some situations where it is okay to make judgment calls and say, this is wrong and this is right, and there's no in between. But like so many people in the movement of politics today, socio-political and socio-cultural. If you're not 100% with me, then you're 100% against me. And I'm about to sneeze, ladies and gentlemen, so it's going to get loud. Sorry, I have the most obnoxious sneezes. And like I was saying, in the way our world operates today, if you're not 100% with me, then you are 100% against me. And if that's the case, then we cannot get along. We therefore must be enemies. And that's where binary thinking is bad. See, there is oftentimes a reasonable and logical option that does walk a fine line. Not ride the fence, but walks a fine line. Binary thinking is killing reasonable discourse. Binary thinking is murdering logical interactions. And if a person's position on an issue or on a topic evolves, you need to ask yourselves why it's evolving. And then ask the person, okay, I see we're not necessarily on the same page we used to be on. So what's changed for you? Why are you having these changes? What's going on? And here's, some of you know, I've got a family member who has been in law enforcement for over 20 years. He is one of the best cops I have ever known. And not just because I'm related to him, but because he is a damn good cop. And I have another very good friend that I've been friends with for over 18 years, or about 18 years. That is also one of the best cops I have ever known in my life. See, these things aren't happening in a vacuum for me. So I'm at risk of friendships and relationships here. But the best thing that I can do for my friends and family members and the people that I love and care for and respect that are in the law enforcement career field is not to be pro-cop. It's not to be binary in my thinking. I'm either pro-cop or I'm anti-cop. It's to be pro-neutrality for positive justice. Period. I'm not doing anyone any favors if I blindly back the blue all the time. Or say, well, no, we got to wait for all the facts to come out. We don't do that with any other career field. We don't do that with anybody else. Like, how do you feel about the people on the left that are defending all of these whacked out Marxist teachers and their shenanigans? You look at them and go, how can you support this? How can you sit here and say that what they're doing is okay, or we need to understand where they're coming from more? How we say that, and rightly so. But what is it? Why is it do conservatives? Why is it that liberty-loving, constitutionally minded conservatives can't take a step back and get out of their own casual cognitive dissonance and say, what's going on with the law enforcement world today? Because I got news for you folks, it's changing. It is changing. The old constitutionally minded cops, not the good old boy types, but the old constitutionally minded cops who really took their oath seriously, they're retiring and they're fading away, and they're being replaced with people who have had a Marxist mindset beat into them for a generation by the government school system. So they believe that they are an extension of the power of the state, and it is their job to enforce whatever the state says. We aren't helping them by backing them. The best way to back them is to be neutral about their decision making. It is neither conservative nor liberty-minded to automatically be pro-cop. One of the things that got me in trouble in my previous career was a statement that I made very publicly on Facebook, which is, I do not back all people who wear blue. I back good cops. I got wrote up for that. by cops. What does that tell you? What does that say to you? So for those of you that are out there angry at me because you think I hate cops and that I don't want them to be safe and that what happened to me has caused this bitterness and this anger. No, I was starting to drift away from Back the Blue while I was still wearing a uniform, because I was seeing the things that were happening. The true conservative, the true liberty-loving position is to say, I'll back you when you're making the right decisions. And when I see you make something that goes against the very core of my being, make a decision that violates my conscience, I'm going to call you on it immediately. I don't need to wait for the facts when I see evil in action. And here, for my friends and family members and loved ones in the law enforcement world, are you looking around? Are you noticing I'm not the only one? I am not the only conservative who is starting to back down from being pro-cop all the time, no matter what. That's not my fault. That's not the fault of my allies in this movement. You, in the law enforcement community, need to start to ask yourselves, why are we losing our conservative base? And I can give you a couple of hints. You enforce unjust gun laws. And while you yourselves may not be guilty of some of the abuse, you won't speak out publicly about it for fear of losing your job. And that's why my employer wanted to silence me. They wanted to send a clear message to any other dissident upstarts. Don't get out of line. You will toe the approved, you will speak the approved narrative. And that's why they did what they did to me, was to shut down anybody else. And if you're one of them, like I said in law enforcement, that's sitting there scratching your head going, what happened to all of our conservative supporters? Why are they turning on us? Because when they come to take our guns, they're going to send you first. And you're going to have to make a decision. My job or the Constitution? So is TC anti-cop? Nope. Is TC pro-cop? Nope. I'm pro-justice. And I'm neutral when it comes to law enforcement. Because that way, when I have to make a split-second decision about something I'm seeing, I don't have to check it against a bias. I don't have to check it against, oh, they're automatically wrong because I hate all cops, or they're automatically right because I love all cops. I can look at it and say, I'm pro-justice, good shoot. I'm pro-justice, bad shoot, you should go to jail. Or, I'm pro-justice, you didn't act when you should have. Even though you got an order that told you to do something, you had an obligation to do what was right. Bad move, you go to prison. Or you got an order that told you to not do something, and you decided you were going to violate that order. I will back you all the way through the courts. I will tell your story. So no. Don't tell me I'm anti-cop. Don't tell me I hate the men in blue. You don't have a right to do that. And if the only reason you're doing it is because you're in the career field, then maybe, just maybe, you're part of the problem. If you think I'm making any sense, pass it around. If you want to see people make fun of me, pass it around. Guys, tune in tonight for my conversation with Anthony Welty at 7:30. He's a great guy. I've gotten to know that just from our messaging back and forth, and I think it's going to be an entertaining and educating conversation. And there's more episodes of the Libertarian Lowdown coming. I'm working with a lot of people to make this thing happen because we need to start building bridges. Conservative, constitutionally minded Republicans need to be building bridges to the red wave that is sweeping the Libertarian Party right now so that we can unite and fight for our republic together. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, I'm pro-justice. Sic Semper Tyrannis.